Hey everybody, my name is Travis Shaw and I am going to create a little miniature guitar course that can be used as a resource for the Jesse Norman School of the Arts. And these courses, or this course in particular, will be available to students of the Jesse Norman School, but they're also available to the community at large. So whether you're a student of the school or you're a community member, I want to welcome you to this kind of like introduction to beginner guitar. I'm going to do probably about 14 different videos that are going to cover some of the basic things that guitar players have to deal with. And I'm going to do this completely from the perspective of a beginner student, somebody who maybe doesn't have any experience on the guitar at all. And I hope that this will serve as a really great resource and a great way to just kind of get to know some different people and get to know some new people. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a video like this one that gets posted that's like a lesson, right? It covers a concept or some kind of thing that's important to beginning guitar. And for each lesson that will be, posted to YouTube and available to the students, I'm going to do a live stream on Facebook as well that'll cover the same topic, and then we can kind of have like more of an open dialogue about what's going on. So I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. So when it comes to dealing with the guitar, the first thing that you have to do is just learn what the names of the strings are, or learn some way to get around the strings so that when somebody tells you I'm playing this here or I'm playing that there, you have some kind of way to deal with where they're talking about. So we do this. There's two different ways of naming the strings, okay? Or at least two. Let's say there's two really common ways to deal with the names of the strings or the locations of the strings. The one that is easiest to understand at first and that a lot of people use is to simply number the strings, right? So we have, how many strings on the guitar? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different strings on the guitar. Now you would think that this would be string number 1, but it's not. The highest pitched string on the guitar is string number 1. And then the next string is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The reason why we do this is because musicians tend to think in pitch, and we tend to organize things from high to low. The other reason why we do this is because later we'll see when we look at some music that's written down, or when we look at a common way to write guitar music, which is called tablature, they put the highest pitches on top. So the mind goes ahead and gets adapted to this from the get-go. So the highest pitched string on the guitar, string number 1. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is really common. However, this isn't typically the way that I communicate how we get around the strings. And maybe it's just convention, and it's just kind of the way I've learned and the way I've interacted with students over the years. What I do is I use pitch names, or the names of the note that each open string actually sounds. So if I play the lowest pitch string on the guitar, I get the note E. Then if I play the next string, I get the note A. Then D, then G, then B, and then high E. Well, there's two E's, right? There's a low E, and there's a high E. Okay, so before we go any further, this is really confusing just off of the bat, because it's hard to remember this random sequence of letters. E, A, D, G, B, E. Oh, and there's two E's. There's a low E and there's a high E. It's like the information just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. So one of the things that many guitar teachers have found to be very useful in this situation, and the thing that I've actually found to be really useful in this situation, is to use a mnemonic device. In other words, for each letter of each string, we use a word. And then those words add up to make a sentence. And I often describe this as a stupid little sentence because it's kind of dumb, but it really helps the names of each string stick in your mind. So here's my stupid little sentence. So I have E is Eddie, A is 8, D is dynamite, G is good, B is by, and then high E is Eddie. So look, Eddie, 8, dynamite, good, by, Eddie. Right? It's kind of hard to forget that once you try to get it in your mind. So Eddie, 8, dynamite, good, by, Eddie. That is going to be the main way in this course that I'm going to reference around the strings. E, A, D, G, B, and E. So there's a couple of issues that come up when we start to try to deal with this that I can kind of imagine are going to happen. And the first thing that pops into my mind is that the guitar that you're holding in your hands, as you're hopefully trying to play along with me and learn some of the stuff that I'm trying to teach you, or would like to share with you anyway, is that your guitar is probably not in tune. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a completely separate video on tuning the guitar. And it's going to re-emphasize some of the things that we talk about here. So I'm going to kind of like skip over that for a minute. I'm going to just assume that the guitar is in tune, which is maybe not the best assumption at the moment. Maybe it is, maybe it's fine, I don't know. But I think tuning the guitar kind of deserves its own lesson. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to hopefully clarify how to do that and give you some strategies to deal with tuning your guitar. Okay, so that's coming later. But for now, let's assume your guitar is in tune. And I'm going to give you a couple of ways to kind of deal with these 6 strings and get a little bit comfortable with them. The first exercise that I like to give is a right hand exercise, or if you're left-handed, it's whatever hand you're holding the pick with. Now, I'm going to take a second and talk about holding the pick, because I do think that, you know, it's nice to kind of cover some of this stuff. This is one of those things that I really think that if you ask 10 different guitar players or 10 different musicians who play guitar, how do you hold the pick? You're probably going to get at least 6 or 7 different answers. So there's many different schools of thought on how to hold the pick. And some of the best guitar players that I know and that I've seen, what they do is they kind of take and make a little hook with their first finger, and their thumb would kind of sit against it like that, and they hold the pick kind of in that hook, and the thumb and the finger hold the pick like that. Now, my intuition as a musician tells me that that's probably the top way to do it. There's a lot of mechanics about the body that, you know, that's probably the best way. I kind of came to it from a different perspective. So I'm a little bit more self-taught. I kind of, in the beginning of learning the guitar, I kind of just figured out some things for myself. So what I do is a little bit different. So guitar players out there, who are legit. If you're watching this and you don't agree, that's fine. Maybe we can have a discussion on it at some point. So what I do is I actually take 2 fingers and my thumb, and for students, I often describe this as a little alligator mouth. I can make a little alligator mouth. And then I just hold the pick between 2 fingers and my thumb. Now, this gives me some flexibility that I really like and enjoy, and it's really easy to understand. So, I don't know. This is what I do. So we'll start there, and we'll imagine that that's a good way. This is also a really great way to deal with it. But this is how I do it. So, with that in mind, I'm going to give you the first exercise that I like to give to my students. It's really, really simple, and it's just meant to get your right hand lined up with the strings over here. So all I do is I start with the lowest pitch string, and I move the pick down towards the floor through all 6 strings. These are called down picks or downstrokes. Pretty simple, but there's a couple little things here that I might want to point out to you and that you might want to think about. When I do this, my pick is actually pushing into the string that it's on and then stopping on the next string. So I'm not going out away from the guitar. That creates kind of a thin sound. I'm moving from the string to the next string. And this is, I think it's important. And then the next step in this exercise is to do the same thing backwards. But when I show this to students, their first inclination to do it backwards is to do up picks. Right? Because that's moving backwards. It makes sense. But I really advise you to continue to do the down pick and move from the highest string down to the lowest string. So you kind of combine these 2 things together, and it's a pretty simple exercise. You go up the strings in pitch, then you go down the strings in pitch, but you keep doing downstrokes. Looks something like this. I really recommend 3 times through. Oops, excuse me. So it's kind of simple, but it's also got some complexity to it as well. All right, so that's the right hand, that's the names of the strings. Remember, Eddie, 8, Dynamite, Goodbye, Eddie. And that's really where we begin with the guitar. The second thing that we have to learn how to do, the second big concept that we have to learn, is we have to learn how to do things with, for me it's my left hand, but it's whatever hand you're fretting with. So that kind of brings up this word fret, which is all of these little metal things that line the fingerboard of the guitar. The actual piece of metal is called the fret. But guitar players really don't think about it that way. Like in practice, if we say press down the first fret of the high E string. All right, so I find the high E, that's the one that's the highest in pitch, and I come to Well, this is actually the first fret, but this whole space, that's really what we deal with. And we take the string and we push it down so that it comes into contact with the wood of the fingerboard. And here's a little tip for you. Get as close to the fret as you can without going over or without touching it. Get close to the fret, to the actual fret, to the actual piece of metal. And see if you've changed the sound of the string. So open, first fret. And then just notice that as I move, second fret, third fret. That's 12. That's the 12th fret. The guitar gets higher and higher and higher in pitch. So I got all we do for frets is we just label them with numbers. First fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, sixth fret, seventh fret, eighth fret, ninth fret. This is actually a really, good little thing to do at first, because it does a couple things. One, it just gets you exploring the instrument without having to play something in specific. And it also helps to expose the mind to how the guitar is organized. All music and all instruments, well, all instruments that make notes, all instruments that really aren't exactly drums, it's even gray area there. They're organized in pitch. They are organized from the lowest pitch to the highest pitch. This is the way we kind of have to do it. This is the way the human mind is geared towards organizing music. At least that aspect of it. The pitch side. And by doing this and moving it to different strings, you just get your ear and your mind exposed to how we organize the instrument and how the instrument is organized. You kind of just play around a little bit. My final thought for this very, very first lesson is that one of the things I typically do is do some basic location exercises. So the location exercises are, say I'm going to ask you to play the 5th fret of the high E string. Well, first you kind of locate, actually, I would locate the high E string first. That kind of right hand might be the dominant hand. So you kind of locate the high E string, which is the highest pitched string on the guitar. Then you come down here and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push that string into the fingerboard, get close to the fret. See if you can get that sound. Try to do the same thing, but let's say the 3rd fret of the B string. Okay, so the Eddie, 8, dynamite, goodbye. That's the B string, which is kind of tough to see maybe because it's getting hidden by my sound hole, but the 3rd fret of the B string, so on the B string, 1, 2, 3. Or the 2nd fret of the G string. So I'm finding the G string, finding the 2nd fret, pushing that string into the fingerboard and trying to line up the pick with it. 7th fret of the D string. All right, D string's right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4th fret of the A string. Here's the low, here's the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the low E string, let's say 9th fret. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah. The 9th fret of the low E string sounds the same as the 4th fret of the A string. That's an interesting observation that you might want to pay attention to, because we're going to come back to that. But the big thing here is to just work on finding notes on the instrument. And everything that I did as far as finding these notes was kind of random. So you could come up with exercises yourself. And maybe I'll figure out a way to create some PDFs that'll go along with this that will also address and kind of test some of the things that I've talked about here, so that you can see if you got the information across clearly and if you understood it. All right, so that's guitar lesson 1. And I hope it went well. So I'm going to do a live stream on this lesson once this is posted up to YouTube. And we'll see what happens. All right, cool. Thanks for watching.